Hey guys, welcome back to Jacq of All Trades. This is the podcast where we talk about, well, a little bit of everything: creativity, the internet, and all the weird emotional side quests that come with being online. This is episode 27, and today we are talking about something that sounds warm, flattering, and very wholesome on the surface, but can get real uncomfortable once you look a little closer. Because this episode is about when hearing something like, "You mean so much to me," isn't actually connection, it's a sales strategy. Okay, confession time. And please tell me I'm not alone here. If an online creator ever looked straight into the camera and said, "I wouldn't be here without you," I'd probably feel warm, a little appreciated, maybe even slightly special. Like, oh, me? Little old me? And that reaction, totally human. But here's where things get messy. Because the problem starts when that feeling isn't genuine connection, it's a tactic. And somewhere between live streams, comment sections, Discord servers, and that affectionate energy, love bombing went digital. Let's talk about what love bombing actually is, offline versus online. Traditionally, love bombing is something we talk about in romantic relationships. It's when someone overwhelms you with affection, attention, praise, and emotional intensity early on. Not because they love you, but because they want control, loyalty, or dependency. Now, take that exact psychology and drop it into streaming platforms, influencer culture, YouTube communities. You don't get flowers or constant texts anymore. You get messages like, "You're not just followers, you're family. You guys are the only ones who understand me. I love you all so much. I wouldn't be here without you." And look, on the surface that sounds harmless, even sweet, but intent matters, and patterns matter even more. Before we go any further, though, I want to pause for a second because this part matters. As a YouTuber and a streamer myself, and as someone who's friends with a lot of genuinely good creators, I hesitated for the longest time about publishing this. And the reason is simple. A lot of the phrases we use to show appreciation, they sound very similar. Sometimes they are literally the same phrases people point to when talking about love bombing. Things like gratitude, saying thank you, telling your community you appreciate them, acknowledging that you wouldn't be where you are without their support. I guess you can tell by now, publishing this kind of feels like I'm calling myself out as well, huh? So yeah, there was definitely a moment where I thought, is this going to backfire on me? Or is this going to sound like I'm calling out people who are actually very genuine? And honestly, that discomfort is exactly why I decided to talk about it anyway. Besides, I'm also not the kind of creator who wants to stay quiet just because something might be misunderstood or because it might make things a little awkward in the creator circles. If you think about it, those gratitude and affectionate phrases on their own, totally fine. Like I said, it's the intention behind saying all those. Also, if we never talk about the grey areas, we leave people without language to tell the difference between real appreciation and emotional manipulation. This isn't about policing words. It's about patterns, intent, and what happens after those words are said. You can be warm and genuine without creating emotional pressure. You can appreciate your audience without making them feel responsible for your well-being. And the creators who are truly sincere, they usually understand this distinction the fastest. Alright, with that said, let's talk about how love bombing actually shows up online, especially when nobody calls it that. Online love bombing isn't loud or dramatic. It's subtle, performative, wrapped in community vibes. Let's talk about how it usually shows up. First, turning followers into family. When a creator says this isn't a fan base, this is a family, that one sentence quietly rewrites the rules. Because now, unsubscribing doesn't feel neutral, it feels like abandonment. Criticism feels like betrayal. Taking a break feels like you're letting someone down. And just to be very clear, a healthy audience relationship does not rely on guilt to keep people around. That's not community. That's emotional pressure. Secondly, emotional validation on tap. Some creators constantly say things like, "You guys saved me. You're the reason I keep going. Without you, I'd have nothing." And listen, sometimes that is appreciation, but sometimes it's emotional weight being placed on strangers who never agreed to carry it. Support slowly turns into obligation, loyalty turns into responsibility, and suddenly living feels cruel, which is kind of the point. Third, romantic coded language, especially in live streams. Okay, this one, messy, messy, messy. Pet names, flirty banter, inside jokes. That accidental intimacy that's always just vague enough to deny later. And if someone ever calls it out, the response is usually, "It's just jokes," or "You're reading too much into it." But emotionally, the message already landed. The creator keeps plausible deniability, the follower keeps hope. That imbalance, yeah, that's not an accident. Finally, vulnerability timed for maximum impact. There's a difference between sharing authentically and trauma dumping right before a donation goal. When breakdowns or mental health confessions consistently line up with monetization moments, that's not vulnerability, that's emotional leverage. Why love bombing works so well and why it's dangerous? Parasocial relationships already blur boundaries. Love bombing is like pouring gasoline on that fire. It works because humans are wired for belonging, recognition, emotional reciprocity. The followers feels chosen. The creator gets engagement, money, and loyalty. But only one side actually controls the relationship. And when affection is rewarded for spending, withdrawn when engagement drops, used to discourage boundaries, that's conditioning, my friend. But not all creators do this. Very true and important. This isn't an attack on creators as a whole. Some creators are genuinely warm, emotionally open, and completely unaware of how intense their messaging feels. The difference isn't personality, it's pattern and accountability. Healthy creators encourage viewers to have lives offline. Don't punish absence. Don't imply exclusivity. Don't tie affection to money. Love bombers, on the other hand, escalate closeness fast, pull warmth when support drops, blur emotional lines while denying responsibility, frame loyalty as proof of love. Spot the difference, guys. Your nervous system already knows. Let's talk about the quiet cost to followers. This part doesn't get talked about enough. On the audience side, people end up overspending just to feel noticed, feeling guilty for missing streams, defending creators through obvious red flags, confusing attention with care. And when the creator moves on, the crash feels personal. Because emotionally, it was. If you're a follower, a gentle reality check. A creator can appreciate you, they can be grateful, they can care in a general human sense. But if the relationship requires your money to earn warmth, your presence to avoid guilt, your loyalty to feel worthy, that's not connection. That's emotional marketing. The internet taught us how to monetize attention. Somewhere along the way, it also taught people how to monetize affection. And calling this out doesn't make you bitter. It makes you aware. And awareness is usually the first thing manipulation relies on you not having. Before I wrap this up, I want to share a quick personal note because I think contrast matters. So I want to give a personal shout out to some of the streamers I love watching and engaging with. They are Prudence, The Paslow, Chunky Nugget, Shadow Flare, Crazy Squirrel, and Canadian Gator. What stands out about them? They show up consistently, not necessarily just on my streams, but in many other ways as well. They create a welcoming space without emotional strings attached. They respect boundaries, offline lives, and the fact that their viewers are human beings first. And what stands out to me about them isn't loud affection or emotional intensity. They create space that feels welcoming without making anyone feel responsible for their happiness. No guilt if you miss a stream. No pressure to spend. No blurred emotional lines. Just good vibes, genuine interaction, and a clear understanding that we are all humans with lives outside the stream. That's how I know the difference. If you can step away without punishment, if support is appreciated but never demanded, that's not love bombing. That's just being a decent human on the internet. The internet can hold real community, real friendship, real support. It just shouldn't come with emotional strings attached or a checkout button right underneath. If this episode made you pause, squint a little, and mentally replay some past interactions, yeah, same. If you enjoy this conversation, make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes where we gently poke at uncomfortable internet truth. And hey, if you want to talk about this live, you can hang out with me on Twitch. I stream games, yes, but I'm always down to check about the stuff we talk about here too. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, remember, if affection comes with conditions, it's not love. It's a funnel wearing a smile.